welcome back to Max and Mello's Architects of Soul, Season 2, Episode 7. I'm Max, and with my brother Mello, we're digging into the blueprints of the greats to fuel the music we're making today.
Today we're talking about a literal dynasty, a group that has hit the top 40 in 6 different decades.
That's some serious stuff.
Oh yeah, we're talking about the incredible Isley Brothers.
Most people know the name, but do you know the architecture? Well, it started in Cincinnati with 4 brothers in a gospel quartet, Vernon, Ronald, Rudolph, and O'Kelly. Kids, really, with Vernon being the lead vocalist and oldest at 13.
And they were really good, Max. With Vernon's beautiful tone and their beautiful harmonies, the boys were going to go far. But as always in life, things just happen.
Oh, they truly do, Mello. And we never know what the coming day is going to bring. And for the Isley boys, that day came in 1955, with Vernon out riding his bicycle in Cincinnati and being struck and killed by a car. And the immediate aftermath, obviously, was that the family was devastated. I mean, the remaining 3 brothers, Ronald, Rudolph, and O'Kelly, they were so traumatized that they actually disbanded the group entirely. And for nearly 2 years, they didn't sing a note. They were finished with music.
For us, this is the moment where the spiritual blueprint of the family met a tragic structural collapse. Left to answer the question of what to do, you see, Max, Vernon's death didn't just influence their move to secular music.
But first they had to heal, Mello. And of course, there was the ghost in the church. The group, these boys, well, they had started as a gospel quartet. The Isley Brothers Quartet, they call themselves. But without Vernon's lead voice, that gospel blueprint that they had built, it felt incomplete and painful. And every time they stood in the choir loft, Vernon's absence was a giant gaping hole. Their mother, Sally Isley, was the one who pushed them to keep going. And she told them that Vernon wouldn't want their voices to be silent. She became the first manager architect, ensuring that they stayed together as a unit. And we just talked about that in Gladys.
Yeah.
Another case, Mello, of a parent seeing the gift. That family-first architecture is why they lasted 60 years, while other groups crumbled after their first disagreement. I mean, this is a heavy but vital lesson for us all. As modern artists, trauma can leave you to pivot, Soul Fam, and sometimes that pivot lights the fuse. So they decided to shift to secular music.
The move from gospel to secular R&B and rock and roll wasn't a choice made out of lack of faith, Max. It was a choice made for survival and a fresh start. Moving to secular music allowed them to build a new identity that didn't constantly mirror the tragedy.
Exactly, Mello. That trauma on a young teen can mess your psyche right up. So in 1957, their parents realized that the boys needed to change the scenery to heal. They moved to New York and brought that church fire to the secular world. So it was off to New York they go. Now, in the late 50s, New York City was the epicenter of the doo-wop and early rock and roll explosion. And in the late 50s, gospel music rarely paid enough to sustain a family. So to help support their parents, the brothers realized that their high-energy shouting style, which they learned in the church, could be packaged for the top 40 market.
They didn't leave the soul of the church behind, Max. They just changed the venue. Their first big hit, Shout, in 1959...
And everybody knows that song.
Yeah, it's a classic now. Wasn't even a written song at first. It was an improvised church vamp that they just did to keep the crowd from leaving. They took a spiritual structure and turned it into a rock and roll blueprint.
Yeah, and that's the first lesson for any artist coming up today. Foundation is everything. It shows that when you're an architect of your own sound, you can find inspiration in the struggle and tradition. Then flip it into something the whole world can feel. Build it on something strong and bring it. So when they recorded Shout in 59, they were using the exact same vocal that they used in Cincinnati, but they were singing to a crowd in a club instead of a congregation in a pew. That's some badass shit.
It is. Well, we're just getting started with the Isley legacy. We're going to take a short break and we'll be right back. You're kicking it with Max and Mello's Architects of Soul.
That's right. Don't go nowhere. Hey, we're back. If you like this content, please give us a like and a subscribe to our channel. And remember, there's a video version available on our YouTube page if you feel like watching instead of just listening. So Mello, in February or March of '64, the Isley Brothers backing band, the IB Specials, had a problem. Their lead guitarist had just quit in a huff right before they were supposed to record and tour.
Yes, Max, it seems that the brothers had heard rumors of a guitarist in Greenwich Village who played better than anybody.
I heard about that guy. So what did they do, Mello? They recruited his ass. And back at the time, he was then known as Jimmy James. Hint, hint, hint. Well, Ronnie Isley said as soon as they heard him play, he knew he was not like anyone else. And we all knew that. Anybody got any guesses? Anyway, now anyone who knows about the history of the 70s and the radio Records and the road, well, the backup set record, being the only way to reach people in big cities, naturally New York, LA, Chi-Town, Frisco, etc., it wasn't odd for a musician to be crashing at someone's apartment or house. And this is quite a person to be crashing at your house.
Yeah, and naturally they hired Jimmy immediately, Max, which led to what we might call the after the audition conversation.
Yeah, Jimmy. Jimmy who? Jimi Hendrix. Yeah, Mello. Questions like, hey, where do you live? I mean, it was in those days Jimmy was broke, living hand to mouth in New York City. He didn't even have a place to live. And O'Kelly Isley brought Jimmy home to their mother's house. Hey, Ma, I'm bringing Jimmy to the house in Englewood.
Right over the George Washington Bridge from New York City.
That's right.
The Isleys were not just architects, but scaffolders as well.
Apparently they wanted to build a bridge to bring Jimmy home.
Right. They saw the genius in Jimi Hendrix when he was homeless and literally gave him a roof over his head so his talent could grow.
Now, how amazing is that?
Yeah, and they didn't just give him a room. They gave him the freedom to play his thing.
Yeah, it's, the Isley Brothers gave him
It's your thing.
That's right. Do what you want to do.
Okay. Jimmy once said that the Isleys were the only people who let him do his thing because they knew it made the music better.
It surely did.
Yeah, and Max, there was a bonus for the little kid coming up.
Can you imagine what that little kid became?
Imagine being Ernie Isley. Ernie Isley, who was just a kid at the time, remembers his brother saying, Ma, this is the new guitar player we just hired, Jimi Hendrix.
Damn.
And he needs a place to stay for a while. Of course, Max, the reality was that a little while turned into 2 years, off and on from 63 to 65.
Yep, Mello, this surely wasn't just a job for Jimmy. The Isley family literally adopted him into the Isley Dynasty. Can you just imagine? Oh, my God. For us, this story highlights the eye for talent that the family architecture that the Isleys are famous for. I mean, Ernie Isley, whose playing I absolutely love, has the most legendary perspective on this.
Indeed he does. Think on this, Max. He was a preteen watching Jimmy practice in the family living room every day.
I can only imagine.
And then on February 9th of 1964, Jimi Hendrix sat in the Isleys' living room and watched the Beatles make their historic debut on The Ed Sullivan Show. Think about that. A future guitar god watching the British invasion happening while sitting on the couch of a soul dynasty.
Absolutely unbelievable. That is just some equation, Mello. To be influenced like that is absolutely mind-blowing. Watching Jimmy's fast-developing style is what inspired Ernie to pick up the guitar later. Jimmy was the first one to show the Isleys that the guitar didn't have to just be a background instrument. It could be a lead voice. And boy, with Jimmy, it was a lead voice.
Mm-hmm. And when Jimmy finally left the band in late 1965, Max, partly because he was tired of playing the same set every night and partially because of his own star fire was becoming too big for a backing band.
Yeah, it sure was.
He asked the Isleys for one favor.
Yeah, he sure did, Mello, because being a guitar player and playing the same particular guitar for a year or so, well, he wanted to keep it. You know, the consensus among music historians is that the guitar that O'Kelly had bought for Jimmy in 64 was actually a Fender Duo-Sonic, like a 59 or 60 model. And the Isleys bought him this guitar because Jimmy's previous guitar, which was the Dan Electro, had been stolen. And true to form, the Isleys let him keep it. I thought that was very cool.
Yeah, and interestingly, Max, Ernie Isley recalls that Jimmy would sometimes practice by resting the headstock of the guitar against the window pane in their living room.
Great acoustics.
Right, and the vibration against the glass acted as a natural amplifier so he could hear himself better without waking up the whole house. That's pure architect ingenuity, turning the architecture of the house into his own personal gear.
Yeah, we guitar players are a little nuts. Like I walk in the bathroom and you play in the bathroom, a lot nuts. But we musos have a saying, it ain't the axe, it's the guy swinging it. Mm-hmm. And Jimmy could make a student guitar, which is what the Duo-Sonic actually was, sound like history. Imagine being mentored by Jimi Hendrix, Mello. Think about the vision it took for the Isleys to recognize that Jimmy's out-of-this-world sound belonged in soul music. Man, they let him rip on tracks like Testify. So now, why does this matter for today's artists, you ask? Well, it's a lesson in recognizing the outlier. If you see someone in your circle who has a vibe that's different, don't try to dampen it. Build a room for it. The Isleys' willingness to house and hire Jimi Hendrix is why their 64-track Testify sounds like the future of rock and roll. And the big lesson here for the upcoming artist is about collaboration and mentorship, two things we love. Mm-hmm. The Isleys weren't afraid to let a unique voice shine within their structure. Everybody should shine within your structure. They didn't see Jimmy as a threat. They saw him as an expansion of the blueprint.
But even with that edge, they hit a wall at Motown in the mid-1960s.
Oh, yeah, there's a story you never heard before.
Right. When the Isleys signed to Motown's Tamla label in 1965, they were actually excited. They were paired with the label's A-team architects, Holland Dozier Holland.
Oh, yeah, Mello. This should have been a total honeymoon period, but HDH had originally written This Old Heart of Mine for the Supremes. So when the Isleys recorded it in 66, it was a massive hit, which is great. It was the Motown sound at its peak, sophisticated, driving, and polished. And at the moment, they were the golden boys of the label. But I would like to repeat the phrase, at that moment.
Exactly. Yes, Max, they had what we would call the second string realization.
Apparently, a common string playing at the factory, that was Motown.
Tell me about it.
Oh, yeah.
That does seem to be the case in our past discussions on Berry Gordy and the Motown Machine.
We've heard this before.
So
Go look at all our past episodes that have anything to do with Motown.
So the outs part happened right after the song became a hit. Even though the record was huge, Max, the Isleys started to notice that they were being treated like a middle-of-the-road group compared to the Temptations or the Supremes.
Now, where have we heard that before? Oh, my God. Just look at the original album cover for This Old Heart of Mine. It features two white models on a beach. The Isley Brothers are absolutely nowhere to be found. Motown didn't even put the artists' faces on their own breakout album because they were marketing to a specific demographic. I mean, we have seen that in play more than once on both sides of the color line. Can we say Tina Marie?
Okay, remember Wild and Peaceful?
Oh, yeah.
With no Tina on the cover?
With no Tina.
Right. That wasn't the only thing, Max.
No Tina to be Cena. Sorry.
The Isleys were used to writing their own music and managing their own label. T-Neck, which they had before signing with Berry Gordy, at Motown they were employees.
There's a big difference.
Yeah, they felt like they were in a creative straitjacket, forced into an assembly line production style that didn't fit their rock and soul grit.
It wasn't a good period, Mello. By 1967, their career in the U.S. was flagging because Motown wasn't prioritizing their follow-up singles. However, This Old Heart of Mine became a massive #3 hit in Great Britain, and the Isleys actually moved to England for a while to sustain their careers because they felt more respected there than at their own label in Detroit. How fucked up is that?
It's really messed up, and this alienation is what finally gave them the courage to quit Motown in 1968 and relaunch T-Neck for good, man.
Best move they could make for themselves.
Absolutely. They felt like they were on an assembly line, and the Motown architecture was too pop for their rock soul vision.
Yes, Mello, and this is where the soul fire really gets tested. They didn't just complain, they planned their exit. They realized that to build the house they wanted, well, they had to own the land. They saw the machine and decided they were big enough to rebuild their own machine.
For every R&B artist today, that's the pivot. Do you stay where it's safe but restricted, or do you take the risk to be your own architect? And the Isleys chose freedom.
That's right, they did. Coming up next, the rebirth of T-Neck Records and the move that changed the business of soul forever.
Stay with us, y'all. You're kicking it with Max and Mello's Architects of Soul, talking Isley Brothers.
Stick around.
We're back on Max and Mello's Architects of Soul. In 1969, they did what few black artists dared to do at the time, the independence move.
Woohoo.
They relaunched their own label, T-Neck Records.
And this, Mello, this allowed them to own their own masters. We all know about that, and control their sound, leading to the funkier era of It's Your Thing. In 1969, when It's Your Thing was recorded, the group was still officially a vocal trio, Ronald, Rudolph, and O'Kelly. And even though the younger brothers, Ernie and Marvin, and Chris Jasper, weren't official members of the group yet, they were already the secret architects behind the scenes.
That's right, Max. In fact, on the It's Your Thing session, Ernie Isley was only 16 years old when they recorded that song.
That's right.
And he didn't play guitar on it. He actually played the drums.
Yeah, Mello, the Isleys used their younger brothers as session musicians first. This allowed them to develop a family shorthand in the studio that the Motown producers could never replicate. So they released this badass song, and bam.
Yep. Here we go with another story that tags our good pal, Mr. Berry Gordy.
Oh, yeah. Where have we heard that before? What a surprise. Man, as soon as the single was released, not on Motown, but on the Isleys' own T-Neck Records in February of 1969, well, guess what? Motown had a claim. Surprise, surprise, surprise.
Yep. That sure must have been.
I'll bet.
And Motown's argument was that the song must have been recorded before the brothers left the label in 1968. Gordy even threatened to sue anyone who distributed, trying to scare the industry away from the record.
They're so Berry Gordy. Must have been a big cataclysmic event in Motown, specifically in the office of Berry Gordy. A lot of ketchup on the wall, if you know what I'm saying. Because when It's Your Thing exploded in 1969, Motown didn't see it just as a hit. They saw a huge financial loss from a group that had just walked out their door. Whoa, that must have killed Berry. That wasn't enough either. Even though they had filed the initial lawsuit shortly after It's Your Thing hit the charts in 69, Gordy's strategy was to wait them out. Can you imagine?
Yeah, exactly, Max. They saw the Isleys about to get a huge infusion of cash and corporate backing.
Right, Mello. The Isley Brothers signed a major distribution deal with CBS Records, and Motown used this new deal as an opportunity to ramp up the pressure. I mean, they argued that any royalty CBS collected should actually belong to Motown, because the foundation of the Isleys' solo success, which was this song, It's Your Thing, was allegedly a Motown product. What a lot of balls.
Mm-hmm. So Motown ramped up the litigation, Max.
Oh, yeah, they did.
Yeah, to try to get a piece of the pie, claiming the Isleys' entire post-Motown success was built on the foundation of the song It's Your Thing that actually belonged to them. And Motown's plan, dragging the case through the discovery phase and filing multiple motions, Max, well, that goal was to bleed the newly independent T-Neck records of its capital.
Yeah, so they would come crawling back.
Exactly. And if the Isleys went broke paying lawyers, well, they might have been forced to settle and return to Motown, to the Motown fold anyway. But so it went into what they call a cold case phase.
What a prick.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, he is.
No, I'm not sorry, but he was a prick.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, the Isley Brothers, they're out of Motown. And they were working feverishly in New Jersey and New York to build their own label, T-Neck. And it's during this transition, boxes of tapes and recording materials were being moved in and out of the family homes in Jersey. And, well, it's at this time that a critical incident occurs that impacts the case, but no one knows about it.
Yeah, the cleaning incident, as we call it. Yeah, it happened like this, Max. As the brothers moved their operation, their mother, Sally Isley, was doing what any mother does.
And what do mothers do?
They clean up the clutter. So there she is in O'Kelly Isley's basement, cleaning away.
That's what they do.
When she comes across a stack of recording tapes, not realizing they were the foundational masters for their new independent tracks on their new label, she assumed they were old, discarded reels from the Motown era or scratch tapes.
Uh-oh. You get a bad feeling just visualizing. I mean, just like any mom, they all do it. They clean it and they throw shit out. That's what they do. That's what mothers do, right? To clear out the space. Well, she threw the masters out with the trash. Let me just throw out these old tapes here. They're probably not doing anything. Well, Mello, when Motown sued the Isleys for It's Your Thing, the entire case depended on proving the exact date of the songs recorded. Could be a problem.
Yeah, a big problem, I think, Max.
Big one.
Motown's lawyers demanded the original session tape. They believed the tapes would have date stamps or studio logs showing the song was recorded in late 1968 while the Isleys were still under Motown contract.
Which they would have no problem telling Motown to pound sand. But the Isleys instead had to go into a federal court and testify that they couldn't produce the evidence because their mother had accidentally thrown it in the garbage.
Yeah, what a story, Max.
Oh, my God.
The judge in the case, Judge Lawrence Whipple, found the story hard to swallow, you think?
I can't tell you who to sock it to. Oh, my God.
He literally called the testimony incredible, meaning he found it difficult to believe.
Oh, like there's a surprise. And of course, Motown argued that the tapes weren't thrown away by accident, that they were destroyed on purpose to hide the evidence of when the song was actually made. Barry, it never stops.
Can you imagine?
No, I can't.
You finally get your independence. You record your greatest hit, and then mom accidentally throws the evidence in the trash.
That is the ultimate test of faith. The Isleys had to stand in front of a federal judge, and win their case on their word alone because the physical blueprint was sitting in a New Jersey landfill. How insane is that?
Yes, Max, this distinction is huge because it marks the era of transition architecture for the group. The change is going to come portion where they look around and see their next step.
Yeah, so here we have an architectural moment. It's physicality versus testimony. In the digital age today, we have metadata. In 1969, they had tapes. So the lesson here, as we always say, is to secure your assets. And what does that mean?
Every show, protect your masters.
That's exactly right.
Luckily for the Isleys, the family factor came into play, Max.
Indeed, Mello, it surely did, because it shows that even in a dynasty, things can get messy and cleaned up apparently improperly.
But the fact that the brothers stayed united behind their mother's story and the jury eventually believed them, Max, is a testament to the strength of their family architecture.
And a sure win for the team not named Gordy, which we don't have a problem with that.
Right.
Barry thought he could out-legal them until they had to crawl back for a paycheck. But the Isleys stood on their blueprint and said it's our thing, and they meant it. They were badass.
They sure did, Max. And right after the break, we'll talk the family's next move, the 1973 structural upgrade, or the 3+3 era.
That's right, Soul fam. Stick around. You're listening to Max and Mello's Architects of Soul, and we'll be right back. Thanks for tuning in to Architects of Soul. Our music is waiting for you.
Welcome back to Architects of Soul, talking about the Isley Dynasty. And if you're enjoying the vibe, or if you're picking up what we're putting down...
That's right, if you're checking out what we're chucking out.
Please give a like and subscribe. Don't forget the video version is on our YouTube page for the full experience, audio and visual.
That's right, give it a look for some visual content. All right, so Mello, in 1973, the older brothers realized that the vocal trio model was becoming a relic of the 60s. This is very bright of them, the foresight to see this.
It's true, Max. To compete with the self-contained funk bands like Earth, Wind & Fire or Sly and the Family Stone, episode 5, by the way.
That's right, episode 5, baby.
Yeah. Okay, shameless plug out of the way. So they looked, they saw, and they knew. They had to officially expand.
And of course, the new members they brought in were Ernie Isley, Marvin Isley, and Chris Jasper, who we talked about before, because they were there. They were the new vibe that they'd already built in the background during all those 4 years from 69 to 73. And Mello, this changed the architecture from singers with a band to a self-contained powerhouse, blending Ronald's silky vocals and Chris's synthesizers with Ernie's blistering Hendrix-inspired guitar leads.
Yes, Max, and they were the quiet storm versus the funk.
And badass as hell.
Oh, yeah, they were dual threat architects. They could build a floor filler like Fight the Power, and then turn around and build a bedroom classic like Between the Sheets or For the Love of You.
Two absolutely magnificent songs. Yeah. And now they were blending soul, funk, and rock in a way that had not been done.
And the lesson for us today is evolution. You can't be afraid to add new rooms to your house. They brought in younger family members to keep the sound fresh while keeping the foundation solid. It kept them relevant while their peers were fading out.
But Mello, it's still not over with Barry. Is it ever?
Okay, really.
Motown fought to stop the Isleys from getting their due, like they were ever going to stop that. And as we touched on this earlier, the accidental disposal of the master tapes by Mom Sally Isley, well, that sure created a massive legal roadblock.
It did, Max, from 1973 to 1975, and because the physical proof, which was the tapes, was gone, the case turned into a he said, she said battle.
Yep.
The court had to bring in recording engineers, session musicians, and even the president of Buddha Records, Art Cass, to testify about exactly when the microphones were turned on.
That's because Barry wasn't giving up the ghost.
Yeah, and this kind of forensic testimony takes years to organize and litigate.
And which, of course, it did. And the final verdict came in 75 when a federal judge finally ruled that the jury's decision would stand. The court officially declared that the Isleys had recorded the song in January 69, weeks after their Motown contract ended, and thus ended the last gasp of Motown's attempt to litigate the shit out of this matter. Of course, that isn't really, because despite the missing physical evidence, the Isleys had to go back again in 1977 on an appeal. And of course, they won that because the jury believed the testimony of the engineers and the brothers themselves. Case closed. Sorry, Barry. Not really.
Not exactly. Meanwhile, Max, this is the architectural peak of their career. While the Motown legal battle was looming in the background, the Isleys weren't just surviving. They were thriving by building a quiet storm wing onto their house that would influence R&B for the next 50 years.
Hell yes. It's true, Mello. The contrast between the tension of the courtroom and the silkiness of these sessions is legendary. Recording For the Love of You in 1975, the vocal session is a masterclass in vocal architecture. It simply is.
Oh, yeah, it certainly is. A magnificent vocal, Max. So by 1975, Ronald Isley had fully mastered his liquid tenor.
Yeah.
And it was during the recording of The Heat Is On that the brothers wanted a vocal that felt like it was floating. Ronald reportedly recorded his parts in a dimly lit studio, often sitting down to keep his breathing as relaxed as possible.
It's chill.
He taught us that soul doesn't have to be a shout. The power in For the Love of You comes from the restraint. He was using his voice as a precision instrument to match Chris Jasper's smooth synthesizer pads.
It's so badass.
Yeah.
And then there's the Between the Sheets synthesizer revolution in 1983. Let me get my geek on for a second, because by the time they got to Between the Sheets, the legal battles were almost completely settled. But the industry was shifting towards drum machines and synths. So this track, Mello, was built on a Roland TR-808 drum machine and an Oberheim OBXA synthesizer. And Chris Jasper was the architect of this specific sound. So he took the funk of the earlier years and digitized it without losing the soul.
Yeah, there was this vibe shift, Max. While they were recording, they knew they had a bedroom classic.
Oh, undoubtedly.
The brothers famously kept the studio closed to outsiders during these sessions because the vibe was so intimate. They weren't just making a song, they were designing an atmosphere.
Yes, Mel, the Isleys built these songs with so much space, minimalistic, that they became the perfect renovation projects for hip-hop producers 20 years later. And speaking of that, we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and put a bow on this puppy.
You're chilling with Max and Mello and the Architects of Soul, so sit tight. We'll be right back in a flash.
Hey, welcome back. We're in the home stretch.
Max, we have to talk about the 80s and 90s.
Oh, sure we do.
Yeah, the Isleys didn't just settle into being an oldies act. Having pioneered the quiet storm with tracks like Between the Sheets and For the Love of You, songs with space and groove.
And beautiful songs on top of that. And that's why they're the most sampled architects in music history, Mello. When the Notorious B.I.G. sampled Between the Sheets for Big Papa, or when the Footnotes and later Alicia Keys looked to For the Love of You, it proved the Isley blueprint was future-proof. Or Ice Cube, you're hearing the Isley Brothers Foundation. They built music so structurally sound that a whole new generation used it to build hip-hop.
And look at Ron Isley's reinvention as Mr. Biggs. He didn't chase the youth, he partnered with them.
Yep.
He showed us that you can maintain your legacy while still being the coolest guy in the room for a new generation.
They're badass, the Isleys, man. They got some great shit. Mm-hmm. The Isleys built these songs with so much space that they became the perfect renovation project for all these hip-hop producers 20 years later.
And beyond.
And beyond, that's right. Even during the most litigious years, though, they had a rule, the Isleys. The music came first. I love that. Ernie Isley recalls that despite the lawyers calling every day about Barry and his suit, once the studio door closed, the lawyers didn't exist. They used the studio as a sanctuary, which is what it is. It's a vital lesson for any artist today dealing with business stress. The booth is a safe haven, and we surely know that. We sure do.
For upcoming artists, that is the goal. Legacy maintenance.
So maintain what you built.
Exactly. It's not about staying the same. It's about making sure your quality is so high that your sound becomes timeless.
Exactly.
The Isleys taught us that soul isn't a moment, it's a continuum. Man, the Isley Brothers really gave us the full map, from the church house to the penthouse. And they stayed independent and they stayed family.
Holla. They showed us that being an architect means you have to be willing to tear down the old walls to build something bigger. They were dual threats. They could give you a protest anthem like Fight the Power and then a bedroom classic. They understood the full spectrum of the human experience.
And their impact on today's R&B is everywhere, Max. Every time an artist goes independent, every time a producer layers a silky vocal over a gritty beat, they are walking through a door that the Isley Brothers opened.
Yes, that's so true, Mello. It really is. And as always, we want to close with our final thought and our hope for all of us, our art, our craft, and our creations.
Keep that soul fire burning, protect your sound, nurture your creativity, own your voice, and remember the lessons from the giants who came before.
And yes, protect your masters and seek out wise mentors who can guide you on your journey. And until next we meet, peace and soul, y'all.